They told me I was useless after my accident, but I came back stronger than all of them. They told me I was useless after the accident, like I was some kind of broken tool they could just toss aside. Friends stopped calling. My own family whispered behind my back. My girlfriend? Yeah. She bailed the moment I needed her most. But you know what they forgot? That even a shattered blade can be reforged. This is the story of how I lost everything, and came back stronger than all of them. I never thought my life would change because of a sandwich. Weird start, right? But hear me out. It was a normal Wednesday afternoon. I had just clocked out from work early. My girlfriend Natalie had texted saying she was hungry and craving one of those spicy chicken sandwiches from this spot across town. I was tired as hell, but I figured, why not surprise her? So I hopped in my car, threw on some music, and drove off. What I didn't know was that a truck driver 2 lanes over had fallen asleep at the wheel. I don't remember the impact. 1 second, I'm vibing to some old school Kanye. Next thing I know, I wake up in a hospital bed, full of wires and tubes, with my left leg completely crushed. The doctors said it was a miracle I survived, but they also said I wouldn't walk for a long time, if ever. Multiple surgeries, months of rehab, permanent metal pins. I was in and out of consciousness, doped up on painkillers, trying to process what the hell just happened. But what hit harder than the accident was what came after. When Natalie came to visit, it wasn't like in the movies. No running tears, no passionate hugs. She stood at the door like I was a stranger. Her arms were folded, her face blank. "You'll be okay," she said, eyes flicking to her phone. Eventually, I tried to smile. "It'll be a long road, but..." She cut me off. "Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if I can do this. Like, I didn't sign up to be a nurse." I stared at her, stunned. "I'm still me, Nat." She sighed. "But you're not really." And then she left. A week later, I found out from a friend that she was already seeing someone else. Some gym trainer dude with abs like Greek marble. Classic. My best friend Marcus was a little better. He visited twice. But slowly, his texts went from "bro, we got you," to "sorry, been super busy." And eventually silence. Even my parents, who I thought would always be there, started acting weird. My dad avoided eye contact when he visited. My mom smiled, but it felt forced. Like they were already mourning a version of me that didn't exist anymore. And then, one night, I overheard my dad on the phone, talking to my uncle. He said, "It's hard, man. He was always so full of life. Now he's just there. I don't think he'll ever get back to normal." That broke me more than any broken bone ever could. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. There's nowhere left to go but up. Rehab was hell. Every day was a war. My body screamed. My mind tried to quit. I watched other patients make progress while I just sat there, useless. One nurse, a tough woman named Carla, pulled me aside one day and said, "You either fight for your life or let it slip away. Your choice." So I fought. I started small, lifting my leg an inch off the bed, then walking with a walker, then with crutches. Every milestone felt like Everest. I watched YouTube videos on motivation until 3 a.m. I journaled. I set goals. I screamed through every painful step. And slowly, painfully, I came back. 3 months later, I walked out of that hospital under my own power. It wasn't perfect. I limped. My legs still ached in cold weather, but I walked. And that alone was a victory. But I wasn't done. I signed up for the gym. Started with light weights, then heavier. Trainers doubted me. I proved them wrong. I spent nights studying fitness, nutrition, discipline. I put my pain into progress. My body changed. My mind sharpened. I wasn't just walking again, I was transforming. I got a job. A better one. Started my own freelance side hustle. Then one day, I ran into Marcus. He was at a coffee shop, laughing with some mutuals. I walked in, looking better than I ever had. He stared. "Bro, what the hell? You look like a damn superhero." I smiled. "Nah, just someone who remembers who the hell he is." A few weeks after that, I got a DM from Natalie. No hi. No sorry. Just, "Hey, saw your new photos. You look amazing. Want to catch up sometime?" I stared at the message for a long second. Then I typed, "Sorry, I don't date people who disappear when I need them." Blocked. But here's where things really get interesting. After I blocked Natalie, something inside me finally clicked into place. It was the first time I genuinely felt peace. Not because I got some kind of petty revenge, but because I didn't need her anymore. I didn't need validation from the people who left. I didn't need pity or sympathy. I had become someone new, someone stronger. 6 months later, I was barely recognizable. Not just physically, yeah, I was shredded now, but mentally and emotionally, I was a fortress. I'd taken every bit of pain and rejection and forged it into something indestructible. I even started documenting my journey anonymously on a small blog and TikTok account. It wasn't about getting followers at first. It was therapy, but people started relating. Comments rolled in like, "Man, I needed this today. I'm going through something similar. Your story helped me get back up." It grew fast. Within a few months, I had a solid community of people who were also rebuilding from the ground up. Survivors, fighters, people who understood that healing isn't linear. That gave me purpose. So I started volunteering too at the same rehab center I used to cry in every night. Now, I was the one pushing people in wheelchairs, telling them, "I know it hurts, but you got this. Trust me." One of the wildest moments came a year after the accident. The gym I now trained at hosted an open fitness challenge. 300 people entered: athletes, bodybuilders, martial artists, influencers. It was a grueling obstacle course plus a strength endurance competition. Cameras, lights, the whole 9 yards. I almost didn't join. The voice in my head, the one that sounded like my dad on that phone call, whispered, "You're still the broken guy in the hospital bed." But then I remembered how far I'd come. I signed up. And I didn't just compete. I won. Dead silence when I crossed the finish line first. I collapsed to my knees, panting, sweat pouring off me, my leg metal pins and all throbbing like hell. But I looked up and people were cheering. Not because I had some sob story, but because I earned that moment. A week later, I got a call from my mom. She asked if I could come over for dinner, said the whole family would be there. I paused before answering, but eventually said yes. I hadn't seen them much since everything went down. They'd messaged here and there, birthday texts, a few awkward, "How are you doing?" check-ins, but nothing real. So I pulled up to the house wearing a button-down and clean sneakers. Parked the new car I bought with my own savings in the driveway. I walked in and heads turned. My cousins, who used to mock me for being soft, looked like they'd seen a ghost. My dad stood up, shocked. My uncle muttered, "Damn." The first words out of my mom's mouth? "You look incredible." I just smiled. Good to see everyone. Dinner was filled with awkward silences and half smiles. But then my dad cleared his throat and stood up with a glass in hand. "I just want to say I was wrong. We were all wrong. When you were in that hospital, I didn't think you'd make it back. But now, I've never been prouder of anything in my life." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I stared at him. The same man who once whispered that I was just there. And I replied, "I wasn't looking for your pride. I was just trying to remember who I was." The whole room went quiet. But no one argued, because deep down they all knew I'd surpassed who I used to be. I wasn't just back, I was better. A few weeks after that, I ran into Natalie again, at a gas station, of all places. She did a double take as I got out of my car. She had that look in her eye, the kind people get when they realize they screwed up. She walked up, nervously brushing her hair behind her ear. "Hey, wow, you really turned things around." I nodded, indifferent. "Yeah, took a while." "You look amazing." I shrugged. "Thanks. I just wanted to say I'm sorry about before. I didn't know how to deal with everything." That part hit me not because I forgave her, but because I realized I didn't care anymore. She wasn't the villain in my story. She was just a side character in the first act. I smiled politely. "It's all good. I hope you're doing well." Then I got back in my car and drove off. No drama, no bitterness, just peace. But here's the real twist. Remember that trainer she left me for? Turns out he had cheated on her with one of his clients. She posted about it on Facebook, heartbroken, betrayed, saying things like, "Why do people only love you when you're whole?" And I realized that pain I went through, it wasn't a curse. It was a rebirth. I turned my suffering into strength, my losses into lessons, my downfall into a comeback. And the people who left me behind, they're stuck in the past. But me? I'm just getting started. A few months passed after that run-in with Natalie, and honestly, life got calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up angry or bitter. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was just building a life for me, not for approval, not for revenge. And that's when the universe really started opening up. One morning, I got an email from a local community college. Someone had forwarded them my story from the fitness challenge and the rehab volunteer program. They were hosting a youth conference. Topic: resilience after trauma. They wanted me to speak. At first, I was like, nah, I'm not a speaker. I'm not some motivational dude in a suit yelling, "You can do IT," into a microphone. But then I thought about the nights I spent staring at the ceiling in that hospital, feeling broken, feeling forgotten. What if there was a kid out there like me? What if he needed to hear from someone who actually lived it? So I said yes. I wrote my speech from the heart. No fancy quotes. No dramatic pauses, just truth. The night of the event, the room was packed: students, teachers, even parents. I stood behind the curtains, sweaty palms, heart pounding like crazy. Then they called my name. And as I stepped out into the spotlight, I remembered everyone who called me useless. Everyone who left. Everyone who laughed when I tried to stand again. I remembered the pain. And then I spoke. A year ago, I couldn't walk. My girlfriend left. My family gave up. I was told I'd never be the same. But I came back not just to prove them wrong. I came back to prove myself right. Silence. Then applause. People were crying. Some stood. I had to blink back tears myself. And when I stepped off that stage, this 16-year-old kid in a wheelchair rolled up to me, eyes wide, hands trembling. "You gave me hope tonight." That broke me. I knelt down, looked him in the eye, and said, "You don't need anyone else's permission to be strong." From there, everything changed. More invites came in schools, nonprofits, podcasts. I got certified as a personal trainer and started a small coaching business, helping people who were coming out of recovery. I even wrote a book. Title? Still Standing. And every page, every word was a piece of my story. I didn't just rebuild my body. I rebuilt my identity. I stopped being someone's ex, someone's disappointment, someone's failure. I became the strongest version I ever imagined. And the best part? It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about impact. Because you know what? The real comeback isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so undeniably great that their opinions don't even register anymore. It was a year later when I got an invitation to speak at a national event, a huge platform for individuals who had overcome extreme challenges. The same event where big names like athletes and entrepreneurs spoke about their journeys. I thought, why me? But then I remembered everything I had been through. The pain, the isolation, the struggle that no one could ever take away from me. I knew at that moment this was my chance to make a difference on a scale I hadn't even imagined. When I walked out onto that stage, I felt different. Not just because the crowd was bigger than ever before, not because the spotlight felt warmer on my skin, but because I knew this was my purpose. The story I shared that night wasn't just mine anymore. It was for everyone who had ever felt worthless, everyone who had been told they'd never amount to anything. I told them, I was broken, I was abandoned, I was a joke, a burden to those who should have loved me most. But today, I'm standing before you not as a broken man, not as someone who was saved, but as someone who saved himself. The room was silent. It felt like they could feel every single word, every ounce of emotion I poured into this journey. I continued. It wasn't easy. There were days I wanted to quit. There were days I thought the pain would swallow me whole. But every single day I made a choice to not give up. And now I'm here because I chose me. The applause was deafening, but it wasn't for me. It was for the story. It was for every person in that room who had been knocked down and needed to hear they could get back up. Weeks later, I received a message from Natalie. She said she'd been following my progress and that she was genuinely proud of me. She wanted to meet up and catch up, said she missed the old days. I thought about it for a moment. I thought about the times we spent together, the good and bad, the memories. And then I thought, why would I go back to that? The answer was clear. I didn't need her in my life anymore. I was finally complete on my own. So I replied, I'm happy for you, but I'm moving forward. And I hope you do too. She never responded. And that was perfectly fine. Because in the end, the real victory wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting even or proving a point. The victory was in knowing that I built myself from the ground up. I created a life that no one could take away. And when people asked me how I did it, I would just smile and say, I didn't let anyone's opinion define who I was. I became my own hero. I became my own hero. And now? Well, now I'm the guy who's training others to turn their pain into power. The guy who teaches people to lift their own burdens, no matter how heavy. The guy who stands tall, not just for himself, but for everyone who's ever been counted out. I may have been broken once, but now I'm unshakable.